The United States is massive. It's the third largest country in both size and population. But here's the kicker. Almost half of it is nearly empty. With 334 million people, more residents call New York City home than the next 10 states combined. So, what's happening here? Why are these vast, breathtaking regions so sparsely populated? Join me as we unravel the mystery of these empty states and discover the reasons behind their low populations. Buckle up, let's dive in. Opening our list at number 10 is New Hampshire, where the motto is live free or die. And trust me, they take that seriously. Picture rolling hills, quaint towns, and enough charming scenery to make a postcard jealous. But here's the twist. This state has a population density that could make a ghost town feel crowded. With just over 1.36 million residents, New Hampshire is like that one friend who shows up to the party but stands awkwardly in the corner. So, why does this beautiful state have so few people? First off, let's talk about the weather. Winters here can be so harsh, they could make a snowman cry for its mother. And let's not forget about the infamous New Hampshire potholes, big enough to swallow your car whole. While the state boasts stunning nature and outdoor activities, it's not exactly a bustling metropolis. Only about 10% of the population lives in urban areas, which means most folks are finding solace in the woods, avoiding the hustle and bustle of city life. And here's a fun fact. New Hampshire has one of the oldest populations in the country, with a median age of 43.5 years. Young people often leave for college or jobs elsewhere, and rarely come back, unless it's for a nostalgic visit or to retire in peace. So, unless you're a fan of snow-covered solitude, or you've got a deep-seated love for maple syrup and small-town charm, New Hampshire might not be your ideal destination. But hey, if you enjoy the quiet life and don't mind the occasional snowstorm, this state might just be your slice of heaven. At number 9, welcome to Maine, the state so far north that it's practically Canada's awkward cousin. Picture this: mystical pine forests, glacial lakes, and rocky coastlines that could make a postcard jealous. But here's the twist. Maine has only 1.385 million residents. So, why is this stunning state so empty? 2 words: winter, apocalypse. Check out the population density map. Everyone's huddled in the south and along the coast like penguins trying to stay warm. The rest of Maine, it's a winter wonderland that makes Game of Thrones look like a beach vacation. With 89% of the state as untouched forest, it's perfect for moose, but not so much for humans. Sure, Portland's a hip little gem with great food, but with only 38.7% of Mainers living in urban areas, the rest are dodging snowdrifts and living the rural life. Plus, with a median age of 44.8, Maine is like that one friend who refuses to grow up. Young folks swipe left in their 20s and only think about coming back for the early bird special. So, unless you're a snowmobile enthusiast or a hermit with a trust fund, Maine might not be your ideal spot. But hey, if you love pine trees more than people, pack those long johns and enjoy the solitude, just don't forget to write, if your fingers haven't frozen off. All right, now let's talk about Rhode Island, the tiny titan of the U.S. Imagine a place so small that over 400 Rhode Islands could fit into Alaska. Yep, it's the smallest state, but it's packed tighter than a can of sardines. With 1,061 people per square mile, it's the second most densely populated state in the country. Finding a parking spot here is like playing Tetris with your car. Now, let's chat about the cost of living. Rhode Island is like New York light, without the skyscrapers, but with all the expenses. The cost of living is 12.5% higher than the national average. So, unless you enjoy paying premium prices for everything from rent to a cup of joe, you might find yourself scratching your head and wondering why you didn't just move to the Big Apple. And then there's the weather. Rhode Island's coastal charm comes with a side of unpredictable weather. One minute you're sunbathing, the next you're caught in a rainstorm that makes you feel like you're in a disaster movie. Plus, with rising sea levels, some parts might one day be underwater. Talk about living on the edge. Rhode Island also has a bit of a sibling rivalry with its New England neighbors. Anything it can do, Massachusetts or Connecticut can do better, or at least that's what the locals might say. From education to healthcare, Rhode Island often finds itself in the shadow of its larger, flashier neighbors. So, why doesn't everyone flock to Rhode Island? Between the sky-high living costs, crowded cities, and constant competition, it's a tough sell. Enjoying this deep dive into America's emptiest states? Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on more fascinating content like this. Welcome to Delaware, the state that's like a real-life game of Monopoly. It's nearly twice the size of Rhode Island, but at just 1,948 square miles, it's about as big as your average city park. Seriously, you could probably jog across the entire state before lunch. Now, you'd think with over 2 million corporations calling Delaware home, we'd see skyscrapers and bustling metropolises, right? Wrong. The biggest city, Wilmington, boasts a whopping 70,000 residents. That's not a typo, folks. 70,000. It's like they're playing hide and seek with the population. So why no big cities? Well, blame it on Philadelphia, the attention-hogging neighbor just 30 miles away. It's like the popular kid at school who steals all the thunder. Poor Wilmington never stood a chance. The rest of Delaware? It's basically a beach with a state attached. Forget Silicon Valley, we're talking Sandcastle Alley here. And those 2 million corporations? They're like ghosts, legally present but physically absent. Thanks to Delaware's famous tax loophole, these companies are about as real as your imaginary friend from childhood. But here's the kicker. Delaware's population of 1.02 million actually grew by 1.4% last year. Who's moving in? Retirees. Apparently, nothing says golden years, like corporate beaches and tax-free shopping. Delaware's lack of big cities might be a turnoff for some, but others might see it as a plus. What's your take? Is less really more, or do you need that city buzz? Comment below with your thoughts. At number 6, we have Montana, a state bigger than Japan, but with a population that could fit in Tokyo's subway during rush hour. With just 1.12 million residents spread across 147,000 square miles, Montana is like a real-life game of Where's Waldo? Except Waldo is a cowboy, and there are only 7.5 of them per square mile. So why is this stunning state emptier than a vegan's leather closet? Well, unless your dream job is professional mountain gazer or extreme weather enthusiast, Montana might not be your cup of tea. First off, let's talk cities. Or should we say cities? The biggest urban jungle, Billings, barely scrapes 100,000 residents. It's so small, even introverts might feel lonely. And forget about your local Walmart run. In some towns, that's a 2 to 3 hour road trip. Talk about extreme couponing. Now, you might think, hey, at least the housing market must be cheap. Wrong. Montana's got home prices more inflated than a hot air balloon festival. Pair that with job opportunities as rare as a warm day in winter, and you've got a recipe for millennial and Gen Z exodus. Speaking of winter, let's chat about Montana's weather. It's not for the faint of heart. We're talking about a place that casually broke the record for the lowest temperature in the continental U.S. at a bone-chilling minus 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Some parts see snow all year round. It's like living in a snow globe that someone forgot to stop shaking. So unless you're auditioning for the next season of Survivor Extreme Edition, or you've always dreamed of being a popsicle, Montana might be a bit too much. But hey, if you love wide open spaces, breathtaking views, and the chance to play Dodge the Bison on your way to work, then saddle up. Montana's calling your name. By the way, if you had to pick one of these states to spend a week exploring, which one would it be? I'm leaning towards Montana's Glacier National Park, but what about you? At number 5, welcome to South Dakota, home of Mount Rushmore and, well, not much else. This state is so empty, even tumbleweeds get lonely. With just 999,000 residents spread across a land area, 177% larger than Florida, South Dakota is like a real-life game of Where's Waldo? Except Waldo is probably at Wall Drug. Speaking of Wall Drug, prepare for the most aggressive marketing campaign this side of the Mississippi. You'll see more billboards for this tourist trap than actual people. It's like the state's entire population decided to become sign painters. Now, you might think, surely there must be bustling cities? Think again. South Dakota's idea of urban sprawl is a town with more than one stoplight. The state's so rural, even the cows get bored. Let's talk about the weather. If you've ever wanted to experience all 4 seasons in one day, South Dakota's got you covered. Summer, scorching, winter, so cold your words freeze midair. Spring and fall, blink and you'll miss them. With a population density of just 11.7 people per square mile, South Dakota makes social distancing look like a contact sport. It's so sparse, you could probably yell, Marco, and not hear a polo for miles. But hey, if you love endless prairies, a sky so big it makes you feel insignificant, and the excitement of spotting another human being once a week, South Dakota might just be your personal paradise. Just remember, when you visit Mount Rushmore, squint really hard. That way, those presidents' faces might actually look impressive after your 500-mile journey through nothingness. And if all else fails, there's always Wall Drug. Because after seeing 200 billboards, how could you not stop? And now welcome to North Dakota, folks, the state that makes South Dakota look like a tropical paradise. With a population of just 779,261, this place is emptier than a Monday morning gym. It's so sparse, even GPS navigators get confused and start begging for directions. Let's talk weather, shall we? North Dakota boasts the kind of climate that makes penguins pack their bags and head south. Winters here are so brutal, even snowmen file for relocation. And just when you think it's over, surprise! Here comes a summer hotter than a jalapeno's armpit, complete with humidity that'll make you feel like you're wearing a wet sweater in a sauna on the sun. Now, you might be wondering, why so few people? Well, historically, settlers heading west took one look at North Dakota and said, nah, let's keep going. Even the farmers who could have settled here in the 1800s looked at Canada and thought, you know what? I'd rather be polite and cold than just cold. But wait, there's more. North Dakota is so isolated, Amazon Prime considers it a challenge. Need supplies? Hope you like road trips, because the nearest big city might as well be on Mars. It's so remote, even tumbleweeds get homesick. Oh, and let's not forget the state's claim to fame, oil. Because nothing says paradise like combining bone-chilling cold with flammable substances. It's like Mother Nature's own twisted version of ice and fire. But hey, if you love wide-open spaces, and we mean wide, if your idea of a good time is playing Count the Cars on a yearly basis, or if you've always wanted to experience all 4 seasons in a single afternoon, then pack your bags, and maybe a survival kit, and head to North Dakota. Before I reveal the number 3 on the list, a quick question for you. If you've got the chance to move to any of these states, which one would you pick and why? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. And now welcome to Alaska, the state so big it makes Texas look like a cute little backyard. Spanning a whopping 665,000 square miles, Alaska is the ultimate social distancing champion. It's so vast, you could fit 120 Connecticuts inside it and still have room for a few Rhode Islands in the glove compartment. But don't let its size fool you. Alaska's human population is about as dense as a penguin's beach party. With just 733,000 residents, it's got a population density that makes the Sahara Desert look like Times Square. We're talking 1.2 people per square mile, and that's including Anchorage, the state's only real city. Take that out, and you're left with a mind-boggling 0.5 people per square mile. You're more likely to bump into a grizzly bear than your next-door neighbor. Speaking of neighbors, hope you like road trips. The nearest non-Alaskan U.S. city is a mere 40-hour, 2,200-mile drive through the Canadian wilderness. It's like playing Oregon Trail, but with better graphics and fewer dysentery deaths. Now, let's talk about those famous Alaskan winters. Imagine a place where negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit is considered sweater weather and where the sun plays hide-and-seek for months at a time. With less than 4 hours of daylight in winter, it's perfect for vampires or anyone who's really committed to their goth phase. But wait, there's more. Alaska boasts the highest violent crime rate and the most serial killers per capita in the U.S. Turns out, when you've got more space than Mongolia and fewer people than a medium-sized city, it's pretty easy to get away with, well, anything. On the bright side, you do get paid to live here. The state literally hands out checks to residents. But don't get too excited. Between the sky-high cost of living and the constant need for bear spray, you might still end up broke. So, if you've always dreamed of living in a place where the wildlife outnumbers the people, where your closest neighbor might be a moose, and where popping to the shops could be a multi-day expedition, then pack your warmest parka and head to the last frontier. Just remember, in Alaska, you don't find adventure. Adventure finds you, usually in the form of a curious grizzly bear rummaging through your trash. At number 2, we say welcome to Vermont, the state that's like a postcard come to life. If postcards were really into Bernie Sanders and maple syrup, with just 647,000 residents, Vermont is so sparsely populated that even the moose are wondering where everyone went. Picture this: cozy farmhouses nestled among autumn-colored trees, with residents waking up to chirping birds and rushing water. Sounds idyllic, right? Well, it is, if you can find anyone to share it with. Vermont's population density is a mere 68 people per square mile, making it about as crowded as a vegan BBQ in Texas. Now, you might think being the 6th smallest state by area would make Vermont feel a bit cozier. Think again. Only 38.9% of Vermonters live in urban areas. The rest, they're probably lost in the woods, trying to find their way to the nearest Ben & Jerry's. But why so empty? Is it because Vermont borders Canada? and Americans are secretly allergic to politeness and universal healthcare? Nice theory, but the real culprit is probably the cold. Turns out people aren't too keen on living in a place where summer is just a mythical concept that happens to other states. However, plot twist, Vermont has recently become the most moved-to state since 2020. Apparently, people have decided that beautiful scenery, affordability, by New England standards at least, and a thriving job market in Burlington are worth braving the cold for. Who knew that all it would take to get people to move to Vermont was a global pandemic? So, will Vermont soon be overtaking Alaska or North Dakota in population? Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. At this rate, Vermont might hit 1 million residents sometime in the next century. But hey, at least there's plenty of maple syrup to go around while we wait. Remember, folks, in Vermont, you're never alone. There's always a cow or a maple tree nearby to keep you company. Just don't expect them to help you shovel your driveway in winter. And finally, at number 1, welcome to Wyoming, the state that's so empty, even echoes get lonely. With a mere 581,000 residents spread across its vast expanse, Wyoming boasts a population density of just 5.9 people per square mile. That's right, if you're looking for a crowd, you might want to rethink your vacation plans. Now, you might be thinking, surely there must be some bustling metropolises in Wyoming? Think again. The largest city, Cheyenne, has a population that would make a small town blush. Just 63,335 souls. It's so small. Even the local Walmart feels like an exclusive club. But why is Wyoming emptier than a vegan's leather closet? Well, it turns out that rugged, isolated landscapes aren't exactly a selling point for most folks. Who knew that breathtaking vistas and a chance to befriend a bison wasn't top of everyone's job search criteria? Speaking of jobs, if you're not working for Uncle Sam in Wyoming, you might be out of luck. A quarter of the workforce is employed by the government. It's like a real-life version of Parks and Recreation, but with more tumbleweeds and fewer waffles. But hey, if you've always dreamed of living in a place where your nearest neighbor might be a moose, where rush hour means you saw 2 cars in one day, and where social distancing was a way of life long before it was cool, then pack your warmest coat and head to the Equality State. Just remember, in Wyoming, you're never truly alone. There's always a cow or a rock formation nearby to keep you company. And if all else fails, you can always strike up a conversation with the wind. It's probably the most talkative resident in the state. So, come on down to Wyoming, where the skies are big, the population is small, and the chances of accidentally becoming the mayor of a town just by staying there overnight are surprisingly high. Well, that wraps up our tour of the least populated states in the U.S. Which one surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments. If you love this deep dive, make sure to give the video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe.